Innate Family Chiropractic, and today I am here with a very special guest. I am going to, of course, let her introduce herself, but the point of our video is to talk about breastfeeding. So some of you have asked me some questions about supply, some of you have asked about postpartum help and lactation consultants. So we're basically here to answer all those questions for you, so take it away.
Hi, I'm Roza Baghdassarian. I am a board-certified lactation consultant. I'm also the Lactation League leader. And I've been working with families for about 18 years now. And it is a privilege to work with new families. Absolutely. And a joy. And I actually have a couple of offices. I am located in Sherman Oaks. As of a couple of months ago, I have a new satellite location in Pasadena. So for our local mamas in this area, they're welcome to come to a space called Play Lab on Walnut. And the first Friday of the month, we have a breastfeeding support group. So we welcome moms and babies at different stages to come and network with each other and bring their common questions and concerns that are pretty universal for new moms.
Sure.
And one of the most common questions we get is, how do I secure my milk supply? How do I ensure that I keep making enough milk for my baby? And my typical response to that is getting off to a good start.
Right.
So definitely prenatally, for those of you that are still pregnant, enrolling in a breastfeeding class, we know that moms who actually prepare themselves prenatally are actually 5 times less likely to supplement unnecessarily. So, doing your research, finding a great breastfeeding class. I teach classes, Lactation League, lots of great local resources. Your local childbirth educator will often cover.
I will interject there.
Yes.
Childbirth educator. Some of you have heard me talk about Kathy before, but she is absolutely fantastic. Kathy Killigrew teaches in the area, both in Pasadena and in La Cañada. So for all of our moms that are here, she's a fantastic resource. She was not only our instructor, Roza was also our lactation consultant for
and Kathy was my instructor too.
Yeah, and Roza teaches in her class, so you're absolutely right. It was just good for both individuals, both parents, to be there to say, like, hey, when you're breastfeeding, how can I be of support? How am I supposed to hold this doll, that might one day...
Learning how to ride a bike without the bike,
Exactly.
right?
But it was so helpful. You're so right. So, sorry.
So definitely, preparing prenatally is going to be very smart. And if you haven't taken a class, that's okay. You're going to learn when the baby arrives. You're going to learn once you get that bike, right? Get on that bike and learn with your baby. It helps to have some guidance.
Sure, absolutely.
The guidance of somebody who is a professional, like a board-certified lactation consultant, who can give you some tips. So some of the tips that we often will recommend is definitely initially after the baby is born is beginning with skin to skin. So skin to skin, the baby on mom's bare chest will regulate baby's heart rate, regulate baby's temperature. And if the baby's in the habitat, guess what's going to happen? The baby's going to start gravitating towards the breast. So I like to call this the habitat. So ensuring that your baby's not off in a nursery unless it's medically indicated to have your baby not close to you for whatever reason. But otherwise, the closer the baby is to you right after delivery, chances are they're going to navigate their way to the breast. You're going to get off to a good start. The second tip, yes,
babies innately know how to do that.
They really do.
Nobody's going to stand and say, hey, little baby, here's what you have to do. No, they innately know what to do, how to get their milk supply. Mothers breastfeeding their children has been happening for how long? We see animals do it. We see human beings do it.
It's like having baby mammal, a mama mammal. Yeah. And if you have them in a habitat, they're going to find their way to the breast.
They just know.
And a lot of it's just kind of giving yourself over to that,
Definitely.
too. That you don't have to know everything, but just kind of, no one's had your body or your baby, but kind of just letting the baby find its way to the breast. And before you know it, it often just, most times, falls into place.
Right.
But if you feel like you need help, certainly there's a lot of help available today, and just a couple of good tips in getting comfortable with positioning, so that the baby is comfortable and you're comfortable. A little tweaking is nothing like rocket science. It's not like you need to know a whole lot about positioning and latch. It's basically just leaning back, getting comfortable, having baby directly on your body in alignment, and ensuring the baby gets a big mouthful of breast tissue. There's a learning curve to breastfeeding. If you've never done it before, for some moms it doesn't feel as innate, right?
No, absolutely.
But like anything you do over and over and over again, it just starts to feel a lot more effortless.
And she's so right about tweaking. Like, I remember when we called, by the way, I called Rosa like 2 days after. It was a long weekend. She probably would have come like that next day if she was available. But that would be my first recommendation is if something feels off, find help right away. Because the earlier that you do this, the less likely it is that you're going to have to supplement, and the more comfortable you're going to be, and the more baby's just going to get used to breastfeeding in that sense. So don't wait. Don't think, okay, no, I have to do this on my own. You absolutely don't. We have so many resources available. And I just will never forget when Rosa came. It was small little tweaks that she gave, but I didn't know that. I didn't know maybe turning my body one way or leaning back into something or putting 4 pillows behind me here. It was those little things that just ensured the rest of that journey became fantastic.
Oftentimes it's the partners calling you. It's the husband's, the partner saying, we've had a couple of feedings back to back that haven't gone so well. And, breastfeeding is such a confidence game. Having somebody come and give you a couple of tips. And, this does feel comfortable. And I don't feel like I'm twisting my head or the baby's not twisted. And it just feels a lot more organic. And all of a sudden, things start to fall into place. So just a little bit of tweaking can make such a difference.
Yeah, and I remember the other thing I loved was that you showed me different positions. Everything from sideline, if we were going to be in bed and feeding, to if
sideline can be a game changer.
Yeah, oh my God, it's the best. It took me a while to get used to it, but I've never gone back since. Or when I was in my breastfeeding chair, what it would look like there. Or if I just wanted to sit up in bed, how many pillows I'd have to put and support myself there. So having those different things, or if I wasn't and out and about, what to do to help support me feeding out and about. So those little things in different scenarios were awesome little tips too.
So positioning actually facilitates latch. The way that you're positioned will affect the way the baby latches on. And so we want baby to take a big mouthful of breast tissue. Milk supply is driven by the baby. So the more breast tissue the baby gets, a big mouthful of breast tissue, the more milk the baby removes from the breast. There's messages that go to your brain that says, hey, let's keep making more milk. So, there's lots of things that we can take, galactagogues, things that help us increase our milk supply, but the primary way to really boost and protect your milk supply is by ensuring the baby has frequent and effective opportunities at the breast to remove lots of milk. So I really encourage mothers not to watch the clock, watch your baby. Even though there's lots of literature that says, make sure the baby feeds every so many minutes or every so many hours, there's such variation from couplet to couplet. And we want the baby to drive your milk supply. So, apps can be helpful for tracking certain things, but we really want to be watching the baby's feeding pattern and not be watching the clock. You'll find that your supply will then match what the baby actually needs.
Oh, absolutely. And if your schedule allows it, because I know some of you have to go back to work after a couple of weeks and some of you can be home, which is great, but as long as your schedule allows, just kind of feed on demand. That would be my biggest recommendation. That's what I did with Amaya. I pretty much exclusively breastfed her for, oh my God, I don't even know.
Months and months.
Months and months and months and months. She still breastfeeds quite a bit now, and I just plan on continuing till, whatever. But that's what it was. It was because I was continuing to breastfeed, then my nervous system knew to give that signal to my brain to keep producing that milk supply. And if you see that there's a latch issue, not only should you work with a lactation consultant, but this is where chiropractic is huge for that too, is because if your little baby has something going on upper cervically or something's off with the jaw, there's a lot that we can do initially to go ahead and correct that so that they're able to move their head. They're able to
suck correctly.
Suck correctly, turn their head to both sides. Because, hey, if your neck hurt on the left, you're not going to keep yanking your head in that direction, but a baby can't tell you that. So what's going to happen is you're going to be feeding and they're only going to favor one side. Or you're going to come and they're going to have a terrible latch on the other side. So making sure we tweak those things early on will then set them off for that great pace. Will then set you off to continue to nurse. Will then continue to boost your milk supply and keep it where it's supposed to be.
And to know that, like I said, there's a learning curve in the beginning. And sometimes feedings might take, 30 minutes or 60 minutes if you're watching your clock. But to know that, very quickly, feedings become quite efficient, that that's not going to be you for the next year. Babies, really, their mouths get bigger, they become more efficient. You become a lot more responsive in knowing when the baby needs to feed. So things kind of just tweak themselves very organically if you give yourself over to it.
Absolutely. I know initially I was like, I'm literally never going to move from my chair. Like, all I'm going to do is feed. But then she got bigger, then that changed, then she would be out and about and playing and doing all that. So it does become much easier.
And you learn to breastfeed on the go. You learn to breastfeed in the carrier. I really encourage, starting from pregnancy, moms check out a breastfeeding support group. Come and hang out with other mothers, like I mentioned earlier. That's the best way to learn how to breastfeed in public safely.
Sure.
If you're feeling cautious about having your breast out and learning how to get the baby latched on, being around other mothers that are also learning is going to be a really great way to integrate into, because you could be breastfeeding for a while, you're going to be out and about breastfeeding. So I really encourage you to find your local tribe.
Right, exactly. That's the best way to say it. So besides supply, another question we always get, Rosa, from our moms is, what about pumping? When should I start pumping? How often should I be pumping throughout the day? What's the difference between, a hospital-grade pump and just my regular, travel pump? And should pumping ever replace feeding? So can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on that?
Pump use has soared within the last couple of decades. We have better pumps available. We have more moms returning back to work or who are away from their babies. So I think there's definitely a time and place to begin pumping, but to know that your best and most efficient and cuddliest pump of all is your baby.
Yeah.
A baby can always remove more milk than a pump can.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to suggest that if you are planning on pumping, to try and hold off for the first 6 weeks, unless you really need to be pumping sooner than that. If you're separated from your baby or have to return back to work earlier, or your baby's slow to start and you want to protect your milk supply, then it might be appropriate to pump before 6 weeks. If that's the case, we would recommend that you definitely pick up a medical grade multi-user breast pump. Those are the pumps that are a lot stronger than the retail grade that's offered in the stores or through your insurance company. If you're trying to climb up that mountain and you want to get to the top, you want to use that big Hummer. A small little car is not going to get you there. You want to use the best pump on the market to really help protect your milk supply. So I'm going to suggest that you rent a breast pump in the first 6 weeks. If things are going great and your milk supply is established and you want to start pumping for a surplus or you're going back to work, then a retail grade would work well. Now, we don't want to have the pump replace the baby. Okay. So some moms feel overwhelmed, like, when do I actually pump? Sure. So, once a day or once every other day, and you store that milk away, that's going to be adequate. Otherwise, it feels like it's such a task to start pumping. And remember, if you're going to go back to work, you're going to be pumping while you're at work and bringing that milk home with you. So you don't need, a big freezer full of milk initially. Just, maybe a few days worth of milk that's put away for when you go back to work.
Awesome. I hope that answers all of your questions with pumping. I know that was a big question for me. I was born May 28th. I remember I started pumping. We had a wedding actually this week last year in August, and so I pumped just a couple days before that. And I consistently kept up about once a day. It was fine. It never
manageable, right?
Super. Yes. And I would pump for about 10 minutes. I mean, I know that I've had some moms that have been told to pump for half an hour, 45 minutes. What makes that difference there? Is it just mom's flow? Do you get, go through different cycles? What happens in that?
Typically speaking, if she's pumping one breast at a time, she might do 15 and 15, that's about 30 minutes. If she's pumping both breasts, we usually recommend an average of about 15 minutes. Okay. And you're basically going to be collecting residual because your baby's going to breast and then you're pumping, you're just getting residual. By the way, what you pump does not determine what's in the breast. And that's another question we often get, is moms try and figure out how much milk am I making? Let me just see by pumping. And it's so off. We know that based on studies in Australia, ultrasound studies have shown us that even the baby can't get to all the milk that's in the breast, about 70%.
Yeah, I was going to say
70%. And the pump even less than that. So if you collect, an ounce after feeding your baby, it doesn't mean there's an ounce sitting in the breast. You might have 3 or 4. The pump was able to remove about an ounce. So the time of day, the type of pump you're using, the age of your baby, the last time your baby fed, all these will factor into how much milk you'll be able to collect. So some moms might need to pump a few times to collect enough for one feeding, and some moms are able to collect what they need in one pumping session. So again, variations in breast anatomy, in milk supply, everybody's different. So don't compare breasts and don't compare babies.
Right. And keep up, during pregnancy, we're very aware of our prenatals, and we look at dietary changes, and we're looking for whatever we can to support our body. Keep that up postpartum too, because the healthier that you are, the healthier your body's going to be. So don't all of a sudden, be like, I'm going to go on a sugar high, I'm going to do all of this. You're not going to feel good. Your energy's going to be totally off. Your sleep's already off to begin with. So make sure you're supporting yourself with good saturated fats, a ton of hydration. Don't be that dehydrated person sitting there, and just keep up a good solid diet. And yes, during some breastfeeding times, you might be recommended to eliminate a couple of things. If the baby's having digestive issues, you want to take out, I know sometimes they recommend taking out cruciferous vegetables or just irritants for you and your gut, and maybe that'll affect baby. But again, everybody is so different. And if you start to see that your child is having digestive issues, again, let us know, because that's something that we work on. We have a ton of kids that we've seen with colic. We do very simple adjustments on both their mid-back, their lower back. We work a little on their tummy, and we ensure that they're fine. Because I hate that I've heard this statement, but I've heard from moms years past and years later that, oh, I was told that my baby's allergic to my breast milk. And it just deflates me, because your body is not dumb. Your innate intelligence knows exactly what to create and how much to create to support your child. Your child is not allergic to your breast milk. There was something else underlying going on, and we just weren't able to figure it out. So we just told the mom, forget it.
There's a lot of misinformation that's out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes some babies, as you mentioned, might have a sensitivity
to
something in their breast milk that's not the breast milk itself.
Right, absolutely.
And as their gut matures and their system matures, oftentimes you can reintroduce certain foods back into a mom's diet. And to know that, in order to breastfeed, you don't have to change your lifestyle a whole lot. You can generally do all the things you want to do and eat all the foods you want to eat. Everything in balance and moderation.
Definitely.
And setting good examples for your child as they enter, toddlerhood too. So it's kind of good to get yourself into good habits from pregnancy and onwards.
Yeah.
Not to say you can't have, fast food once in a blue moon. That's totally fine. But in general, the more protein that you take in, you're going to have more energy to keep up with this new baby.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We all need all the energy that we can get. Well, I thank you for being here, Roza. You will see Roza's info down below. She's got a website. Some of you heard about PlayLab because I did a post about it on Innate Moms, but we'll put that there too, so you know both of Roza's two, right? We've got the two locations there. Both of her locations. And then if you have any more questions for us, please let us know. We will, of course, do whatever we can to answer them. Thanks for joining us, guys. Bye.